Nation, I'm Unger to the Max, coming at you with a special episode of the SportsRoom Talk Show here from snowy Cleveland, Ohio. Yes, it is March 25th, and yet it is snowing. That's Cleveland, Ohio for you. You never know what the weather is going to be like. Sometimes I think Mother Nature is drunk. But that's besides the point. So, right now I am watching Game 6 of the 2016 NBA Finals between the Golden State Warriors and the Cleveland Cavaliers. In Game 6, the Cavaliers won and forced a Game 7 where they would win 93-89 to complete their 3-1 comeback against the Golden State Warriors. Now, that was the first time ever that a team had come back from a 3-1 series deficit to win the NBA Finals. So, at the beginning of Game 6, Mike Breen, who was on commentary for this game, along with Mark Jackson and Jeff Van Gundy, because ABC always broadcasts the NBA Finals, and those three are usually the commentators, except for the couple years that Mark Jackson was the head coach of Golden State, where then it was just Mike Breen and Jeff Van Gundy. Anyway, so at the beginning of Game 6, Mike Breen said a lot of people were saying that Game 6 was the biggest game in Cavaliers franchise history and one of the biggest nights in Cleveland's sports history. I would agree with that. I would say in the LeBron James era, Game 6 was the biggest home game in Cleveland Cavaliers history. Biggest home game. But we all know the biggest game, period, in Cleveland Cavaliers history. I referenced it at the beginning of this video. It was Game 7 of the 2016 NBA Finals where we won our first championship in franchise history, and in many people's eyes, it was the city's first championship in 52 years. Now, I respectfully disagree with that, as I will still stand by my statement, which is that when Stipe Miocic defeated Fabrizio Verdum at UFC 198 in Curitiba, Brazil, to win the UFC heavyweight championship, he won the first championship for the city of Cleveland in 2016. Then he was followed by the then Lake Erie Monsters winning the Calder Cup in 4 games over the Hershey Bears. And then, like I said, the Cavaliers came back from a 3-1 series deficit to beat the Warriors. And then with the World Series, which I will tie in, which is a good transition actually, the Cleveland Indians, yes, that was their name at the time. They just changed their name to the Guardians. So I think I'm alright saying Cleveland Indians. They had a 3-1 series lead over the Chicago Cubs. But Chicago gave Cleveland a taste of its own medicine as the Cubs came back from a 3-1 series deficit to beat the Indians and break their 108-year curse. Now, I think a lot of people, and I would agree with this, think that if Cleveland was full strength, as in they had Danny Salazar, Carlos Carrasco, and Michael Brantley, they probably would have won that series against the Cubs. Maybe I don't think it would have gone the full 7 games either. It probably would have gone maybe 5 at most. But anyway, that makes a good transition because tonight the Cleveland Cavaliers are hosting the Chicago Bulls. And I'm going to pull up the standings on my handy dandy little mobile computer right in here. Okay? So, go to the ESPN app, go to NBA, click on standings, and what do you know? Chicago sits in 5th place in the Eastern Conference. They are 42-31. They are 4.5 games back of first place Miami. The Miami Heat, by the way, are 47-27. Just a half game up on the Philadelphia 76ers, and also just a half game up on the Milwaukee Bucks. But anyway, like I said, the Chicago Bulls are 42-31. They sit in 5th place. Just behind them are your and mine and everybody's Cleveland Cavaliers at 41-32. The Cavaliers are 5.5 games in back of Miami. Then, in 7th place is the Toronto Raptors. They are 41-32, also 5.5 back. They just beat us the other night. I believe the final score was 117-104, if I'm not mistaken. I'm double checking on the Cleveland Cavaliers app right now. And if that doesn't work, yes, 117-104. Now, fortunately, we had already won the first 3 games against Toronto, so we stay ahead, thanks to that tiebreaker. But, like I said, Chicago is 42-31. They're in 5th place. Cleveland, 41-32, 6th place. And right now, Chicago is leading the season series 2-1. Here's the key thing. Both of those games were in Chicago. Cleveland won one game that was here in Cleveland. Tonight's game is in Cleveland. As you can see, I am fully supporting the Cleveland Cavaliers, but I have some Chicago Bulls stuff. See, I have this mini Cleveland Cavaliers pennant, but I also have a Chicago Bulls pennant. Then, I have this Cleveland Cavaliers magnet right here. But then, I got a Chicago Bulls one right here. Then, I've got, this is one of several Cleveland Cavaliers hats I have. But then, here you go. I have a Chicago Bulls hat. Now, by no stretch of the imagination am I a Chicago Bulls fan. No, I'm not. I appreciate the Chicago Bulls. I will say that. I will say that I've seen a bunch of Michael Jordan highlights. I wish I was around to actually watch him play, because I was born in the late 90s, so I didn't get that pleasure. Even with that, though, even though I didn't get to physically watch him play, I still say he's the GOAT. And I'm not basing that off of the fact that he has more championships than LeBron James or anything like that. When you think of Michael Jordan, right? What team do you associate him with? The Chicago Bulls. Because I know he came back and played for the Washington Wizards, but essentially, when you boil it down to one thing, or when it all comes down to it, you think of Michael Jordan, you think of him in a Chicago Bulls jersey with the number 23, right? Yeah. I don't know if you can make that same case for LeBron. Yeah, he's had 2 stops here in Cleveland, started his career here in Cleveland from 2003 to 2010, but then from 2010 to 2014, he went to Miami. And then, from 2015 to 2018, he was back here in Cleveland. And now, he's with the Los Angeles Lakers. You can see I have a Lakers pennant right here. Oh, by the way, this is for the Charlotte Hornets. You can see I have one for the Philadelphia 76ers, Golden State Warriors, Washington Wizards. Actually, I have a pennant for every NBA team. Even, right here, the Seattle Supersonics. I have a lifetime goal to see a game at all 30 NBA teams' arenas. And when I go to a game, I like to purchase some piece of memorabilia. So when I went to Capital One Arena, I got this pennant. When I went to Oracle Arena, I got this pennant. When I went to Wells Fargo Center, that's what I got. When I went to Staples Center, because it was not Crypto.com Arena yet, and still, I hate that name. They should not have changed it. But I got this towel. And then when I went to Spectrum Center, I got this. Anyway, getting back to my main overall point. Like I said earlier in the video, Game 6 of the 2016 NBA Finals, many Cavaliers fans were saying, and I would say a lot of people across the city were saying that it was the biggest home game in the history of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Here's how I'll say it. It was the biggest game in the history of the Cleveland Cavaliers in the LeBron James era. Okay? That's right. Obviously, Game 7 is the biggest game in the history of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Period. End of story. No doubt about it. Game 6, biggest home game in the LeBron James era. Okay? But tonight's game between the Chicago Bulls and the Cleveland Cavaliers is the biggest home game in the post-LeBron James era. Let me say that again. Tonight's game between the Bulls and Cavaliers is the biggest game in the history of the Cleveland Cavaliers, biggest home game, I should say, in the history of the Cleveland Cavaliers in the post-LeBron James era. Don't get it twisted. During the LeBron James era, Game 6 of the 2016 NBA Finals, easily, that's the biggest home game in Cavaliers history, period. But I'm also saying it was the biggest home game in the LeBron James era. Game 7 of the 2016 NBA Finals, biggest game in Cavaliers history, no questions asked. But tonight's game against the Bulls, biggest home game in Cavaliers history in the post-LeBron James era. Got it? Good. So, the Cavaliers right now, as I said, are in 6th place in the Eastern Conference. So, if the playoffs started today, which I know they don't, but if they did, we would be matched up with the Milwaukee Bucks in the first round. Now, that would mean we make the actual playoffs. But there's a possibility we could end up in the play-in tournament. You know, that 7 to 10 range where 7 plays 8, 9 plays 10. The winner of that 7-8 matchup becomes the 7th seed. The loser of the 7-8 matchup goes to a second game where they play the winner of the 9-10 matchup, and then whoever wins that becomes the 8th seed. Now, I wrote an article about this for the King James Gospel page on Fanside. I'll put a link to that article in the description of this video. I'm actually going to put a couple links in the description of this video. But, based on how the season has evolved for the Cleveland Cavaliers, being that they've been in the top 6 of the Eastern Conference all season long, all season, if they end up falling into the play-in tournament, I would say this season is a failure. Now, I get it. Before the season, I know I had predicted the Cleveland Cavaliers to win 30 games. But that was my cap. I didn't think they were going to go over, which they have. But even with 30 wins, I didn't think that was going to be good enough for the play-in tournament, let alone the actual playoffs. I mean, I thought Atlanta was going to continue to do what they did last season. I knew Brooklyn was going to be good. Milwaukee wasn't going anywhere. I thought we would see some improvement from Chicago, maybe not this much. Obviously, the Bucks are the defending NBA champions, so they're not just going to fall off a cliff. Philadelphia, I thought was going to be good. Boston, I wasn't quite expecting this, but I thought they would be in the mix. So yeah, I just didn't think there was going to be enough room for the Cleveland Cavaliers at the play-in tournament or postseason table. I'll just say it like that. But like I said, the season has gone on, and the Cavs have been in the top 6 of the Eastern Conference the entire time. They even got as high as number 3. Now, did I think they were actually going to end up number 3 in the Eastern Conference? No. Like I said, too many good teams. You had Milwaukee, Boston, Miami, Philadelphia. Again, I thought Atlanta was actually going to be something. Chicago. I thought Charlotte was going to make some noise. I thought maybe the Wizards could put it together. So, I knew that part wasn't sustainable. But being able to stay in the top 6 throughout the season, that they seem to have been able to sustain that. Even with the injuries to Colin Sexton, which I think that's actually been a blessing in disguise to have Sexton injured. Because if you watch this team over the past couple seasons and up until he got injured, Colin Sexton felt almost like the Houston Rockets version of James Harden, where like Harden would just stand there dribbling, and the other guys on the court, they wouldn't move, they didn't cut to the basket, they just kind of stood there and waited for Harden, or in this case, Colin Sexton, to do something. Whereas with Darius Garland being the point guard, you see guys are moving, they're cutting to the basket. Before he got injured, you would see Jared Allen posting up like, give me the ball. So I like that. But now Jared Allen is injured. And Garland's been injured. And Rajon Rondo's injured. Lauri Markkanen's been injured. Dean Wade is injured right now. According to Chirk Vazirk from So What's the Catch, Dean Wade is the real D Wade. Yeah, right. That guy's a goofball, but we love him over on So What's the Catch, which hopefully you enjoyed yesterday's episode of So What's the Catch. I know I've been posting a lot of So What's the Catch in the sports journals on the channel lately. I'm going to try and get back to making more videos like this. But anyway, for the Cavaliers to have sustained this is good. But again, being that the season has gone on and they've stayed in the top 6, expectations have changed about them. Nobody's picking them to win the Eastern Conference and get to the NBA Finals. Not even me. I know myself. For me, if the Cavs can get the right matchup, yeah, they could make it to the second round. But Eastern Conference Finals, no. We don't have that superstar. We don't have that tandem of superstars that you need to really survive in the league now. Because I would say it's back to dynamic duos for the NBA. The Big Three era is over, which again, everybody says that the Big Three era started when LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh linked up in Miami. No. The Big Three era started back in the summer of 2007-2008, going into the 2008 season, when the Boston Celtics went out and traded for Kevin Garnett from the Minnesota Timberwolves, and then they turned around and traded for Ray Allen from the Seattle Supersonics, who never should have left Seattle. Howard Schultz, that is your goddamn fault. I'm mad at you. I am mad at you. Bring back the Seattle Supersonics. Bring them back. Bring them back. Bring them back. Save our Sonics. Save our Sonics. Save our Sonics. Save our Sonics. Yes, I want the Seattle Supersonics back. So this video is also going to go in the Bring Back the Seattle Supersonics playlist that I have on this channel. It's going to go in other playlists as well, don't worry. But yeah, I am very passionate about that. And I'm trying to do my whatever I can do to somehow bring back the Seattle Supersonics. And it ties into this little thing that I have going on, where I have this lifetime goal to see a game at all 30 NBA teams' arenas. And part of that was because, when else was I going to go to Philadelphia? When else was I going to go to Charlotte? Obviously, I had multiple reasons to go to Los Angeles. But Oakland, Washington, D.C., Atlanta, Portland, Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Oklahoma, Seattle, New Orleans, Indianapolis. When would I have gone to these cities if it wasn't for these teams? Philly, the 76ers, the Wizards, the Warriors, the Hornets, the Lakers, Clippers, Magic, the Miami Heat, Phoenix Suns. The list goes on and on. But for some reason, I really wanted to get up to Seattle and see the Supersonics. And so when it was announced that Howard Schultz was selling the Supersonics to an Oklahoma City-based group who said in their press conference, our goal is to keep the Seattle Supersonics in Seattle. Yeah, bullshit. No, you wanted to move them to Oklahoma City the whole time. But anyway, I wanted to go up to Seattle. And actually, I've heard reports recently that the NBA might be looking into expansion and bringing in both Vegas and Seattle. I would be alright with that. If that's the case, my guess is the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Memphis Grizzlies would move to the Eastern Conference. Speaking of the Memphis Grizzlies, I'm glad they're not in the Eastern Conference right now because I don't want to play them. No, sir. I'm glad our 2-game season series with them is over. I wish we had won one of the 2 games, but we didn't. But, did you see what the Grizzlies did the other night against Brooklyn on ESPN without Ja Morant? I mean, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, don't get me started on Kyrie Irving and his whole stuff. I'll just say this. I'm not going to, while I don't agree with a lot of the stances he has taken, I just don't like the way he's gone about it. Kyrie, you're the one that recruited Kevin Durant to Brooklyn, and you're one of the architects of why the Nets look the way they do in terms of player personnel and all that. And then you're going to turn around and be selfish by not getting the vaccine and saying, nope, I'm not getting the vaccine, I'm not going to play. And you're just going to leave Kevin Durant hung out to dry? No. Now again, I'm not going to say whether, I already did. While I disagree with his stance on a lot of that stuff, and again, I'm not trying to make this a political show, but still, I disagree with a lot of his stuff, but still, you can't do that, Kyrie. You're the one that wanted to go to Brooklyn to join with Kevin Durant. And then you're just going to leave him out to dry? No. No. Alright, so now that that's out of the way, getting back to the game on Wednesday. Memphis, going into that game, I believe, was 14-2 without Ja Morant. And they were going to be without Ja Morant for that game against Brooklyn. So that game lost a little bit of its luster because the whole country wanted to watch Ja Morant against Kyrie Irving. Which, by the way, I still have to go to Memphis for a Grizzlies game. I have not been there yet. But anyway, I believe Kyrie and Kevin Durant combined for 70 plus points, if I remember correctly, in that game, and yet the Grizzlies still won. That's impressive. I'm surprised Ja Morant isn't getting more recognition as a possible MVP candidate. I mean, the MVP favorite right now, I would say, is Joel Embiid, but Giannis Antetokounmpo's in that discussion. Nikola Jokic is in that discussion. I would say those are the three right now. Devin Booker, for some reason, is not in that discussion, and that is total and utter bullshit. He needs to be. DeMar DeRozan absolutely needs to be in that MVP discussion, so that's 5 right there. And then I don't care. I am putting Ja Morant in the discussion. He absolutely needs to be. Because, think about it. Last year, the Grizzlies were an 8 seed. And, yeah, they got ousted by the Utah Jazz, but in 5 games. But the Grizzlies didn't make it easy on Utah. Utah had to grind out those 5 games and get to win that series. And then look at the Grizzlies this year. They're number 2 in the West. They clinched a playoff spot. They're 51-23. Now, obviously, I don't think they're catching the Phoenix Suns, because the Suns are 60-14, and they're 9 games up on Memphis. But, oh boy, I could see the Grizzlies making it to the NBA Finals. I really could, because the Grizzlies, I view them as a team that just does not care. They don't. And they were talking about, Memphis has a lack of veteran guys and maybe their youth is going to catch up to them. I say bullshit. No. It's better to have the veteran experience, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, maybe having a bunch of young guys is better because they don't know any better. Like, think about it. Going back to the Cavaliers, Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, Isaac Okoro, they don't know that during the first post-LeBron era, it was number 1 draft pick after number 1 draft pick after number 1 draft pick. They don't know that we were always in the draft lottery. All they know is that right now they're top 6 in the Eastern Conference. And possibly they could be 5th in the Eastern Conference if we can get the win tonight, which will not be easy because DeMar DeRozan is probable for this game. And so is Alex Caruso. So we'll have to see. I'm planning on shooting some in-game footage while at the game tonight. I'm not sure how much, but be on the lookout for that. But until next time, I'm Unger to the Max. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the SportsRoom Talk Show. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, punch that like button like a UFC fighter and punch that subscribe button. So, I will see you later, and let's go, Cavs. Let's beat the Chicago Bulls.